I had just retired when my daughter-in-law called. I'm going to leave my 3 kids with you. After all, you don't do anything anymore, so you can watch them while I travel. I smiled and ended the call. I decided to teach her a lesson she would never forget. When she returned from her trip, the children hid behind me. The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, as the phone still trembled in my hand, I made the most important decision of my 67 years. I decided to teach her a lesson she would never forget. But let me tell you from the beginning, because what happened when she returned from her trip, when the children hid behind me, the silence that followed was deafening. That was just the end of a story that began much earlier. My name is Helen Miller. 35 years of teaching at Lincoln Elementary in Columbus, Ohio, had prepared me to deal with difficult children, complicated parents, and impossible situations. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for Brooke. That afternoon, I was sitting in my living room enjoying my second day of retirement. Do you know what it's like to work since you were 22 years old and finally at 67 have time for yourself? I had waited for this moment my entire life. My coffee table was covered in brochures. Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, a road trip down the Pacific Coast Highway. Places I had always dreamed of seeing but never could, because first it was raising Michael alone after his father died in that pileup on the interstate, and then it was years of sacrifice to give him an education. The phone rang at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I saw Brooke's name on the screen and hesitated to answer. Whenever she called, it was to ask for something. Helen, she began without even a multi. She never called me mother-in-law, much less mom. I have an incredible opportunity in Miami. It's a multi-level marketing conference that's going to change our lives. Multi-level marketing. Another one of her pyramid schemes where she always lost money. The kids can't miss 2 weeks of school, she continued. So, I'll leave them with you. I'm sorry. My voice came out as a whisper. Oh, don't play deaf. I said I'm going to leave Adine, Chloe, and Leo with you. After all, you don't do anything anymore. You can watch them while I travel. It's perfect. Now that you're not working, you have all the time in the world. I don't do anything anymore. I felt my blood boil. This woman who had never worked an honest day in her life, who lived off my son like a parasite, was telling me that I did nothing. Brooke, I have plans. Plans? She laughed with that sharp laugh I detested. What plans can a retired old woman have? Knitting, watching soap operas. Please, Helen, don't be ridiculous. I'll drop .thm off tomorrow at 7 in the morning. And don't give them junk food like last time. The last time? The last time I saw my grandchildren was 6 months ago at Christmas, and only for 2 hours, because according to her, they had to go to their other grandparents' house, the important ones, the ones with money. I'm not going to watch them for you, Brooke. What do you mean you're not? You're their grandmother. It's your obligation. Besides, Michael agrees. Ali, my son didn't even know about this. I was sure of it. He worked 14 hours a day at the manufacturing plant to support this woman's whims. If you ever want to see your grandchildren again, you'd better cooperate, she threatened. Because I decide if they have a grandmother or not. And that's when something inside me broke. Or rather, something inside me woke up. If you knew me, you'd know that Mrs. Miller never stayed silent in the face of injustice. And this woman had just declared war. All right, Brooke, I said with the sweetest voice I could feign. Bring them over tomorrow. That's more like it. And don't spoil them. You know they're difficult children, but that's because you never knew how to raise Michael properly. If he had had a decent mother, I ended the call before she could finish the sentence. I sat there looking at the framed retirement certificate on the wall. 35 years shaping generations. And my own daughter-in-law treated me like a free servant. But if I learned anything in all these years, it's that the best lessons aren't taught with words. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Carol. Yes, it's Helen. I need your help. Do you remember what you told me about the hidden recorders you used in your divorce? Aha. Perfect. And one more thing. Is your sister still working at Child Protective Services? Excellent. I hung up and poured myself a chamomile tea. Tomorrow the real education would begin, but it wouldn't be for the children. Brooke was about to learn the most important lesson of her life. Never ever underestimate a retired teacher with free time and a desire for justice. If you're enjoying this story and want to keep discovering how a determined grandmother can change the destiny of an entire family, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any detail of what's to come. Because believe me, this is just the beginning. That night, I couldn't sleep. As I tossed and turned in bed, the memories of 35 years hit me like waves against the rocks. How did we get here? How did I allow my own family to treat me like an old piece of furniture only useful when they needed it? It all started when Michael was just 3 years old. His father, my Richard, left one rainy October morning heading out on a business trip. The car was part of a 50-vehicle pileup in a blizzard on I-80. 23 people died. Richard was passenger number 24, but he survived for 3 days in the hospital. 3 days in which I spent a savings of 5 years trying to save him. Take care of our son were his last words. Make him a good man. And boy did I try. I was left with $100 in the bank account, a 3-year-old boy, and a teaching degree from the state university. The first few years were a hell I wouldn't wish on anyone. I worked double shifts, morning at the public elementary school, afternoons tutoring. Michael ate before I did. If there was money for a pair of shoes, they were for him. If there was enough left for a toy on his birthday, I pretended I wasn't hungry that night. My mother, God rest her soul, would tell me, Helen, you're going to kill yourself working like this. Find another husband, someone who can provide for you. But I would look at my Michael with those brown eyes just like his father's. And I knew no stepfather would ever love him like I did. No strange man was going to give him the love I could. So I kept going alone. The sacrifices were endless. I remember one Christmas when Michael was 8. I had saved for 6 months to buy him the bicycle he wanted so badly. On the 24th, while he was sleeping, I realized I didn't have money for Christmas dinner. I sold my only piece of jewelry that wasn't my wedding ring, a locket from my grandmother, for $50 so I could make a turkey with all the trimmings. Michael never knew. To him, his mother was invincible. His mother could do anything. And that's how it had to be. When he got to high school, the expenses multiplied. Books, clothes, bus fare, supplies. I was still working my double shifts. But now I also sold pies at the church bake sale on Sundays. My hands. Look at my wrinkled, stained hands with joints swollen from kneading dough at 4 in the morning. But it was all worth it when Michael got into Ohio State University Industrial Engineering. I was bursting with pride. My son, the son of the widow Miller, the one who grew up without a father, was going to be an engineer. It was in his junior year that Brooke appeared. Mom, I want you to meet someone special, he told me one Sunday after church. There she was in her pastel pink dress, her perfect smile, her shiny black hair falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked like a porcelain doll. She hugged me with a warmth that completely disarmed me. Og, Mrs. Miller. Michael has told me so much about you. I admire you so much. Raising such a wonderful son all by yourself. You're my hero. How could I not fall into her trap? I, who had spent 20 years without a sincere hug that wasn't from my son, suddenly had this pretty young girl calling me a hero. The first few years were good. I won't lie. Brooke would come to the house, help me cook, tell me about her humble family from a small town in West Virginia. Her father was a coal miner, her mother a waitress. That's why I understand you so much, Mrs. Miller. You and I know what it's like to struggle. Lies. It was all lies. But I was so happy to see Michael in love that I didn't want to see the signs. They got married when Michael graduated. I paid for half the wedding with my retirement savings. It's an investment in my son's happiness, I justified to myself. Brooke cried with emotion. Or so I thought. Then now I know she was crying because she expected a more lavish wedding. The change was gradual, like poison administered in small doses. First came the subtle comments. Oh, Helen, what a shame Michael didn't have a father figure. You can see it in his lack of ambition. If you had saved better, Michael could have gone to a private university. No offense, but your pies are very simple. I make them with more ingredients, more gourmet. Each comment was a small stab, but I endured them. For Michael. Always for Michael. When Adain, my first grandson, was born, I thought things would get better. I rushed to the hospital with the blanket I had knitted for 9 months. Brooke looked at it and set it aside. Thanks, but we already have everything from Nordstrom. This? Well, we can donate it. Nordstrom. While I was still buying my clothes at Goodwill to save for my son's future, she was shopping at Nordstrom with Michael's salary. Then came Chloe and Leo. With each grandchild, I drifted further away. Brooke had 1,000 excuses. The children needed a routine. I would spoil them. My house wasn't safe for children. My parenting ideas were old-fashioned. You just don't understand, Helen. She told me once, kids today need early stimulation. English classes, swimming, robotics, not just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like Michael grew up on. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. My son grew up with love, with values, with the certainty that he was cherished. But Brooke had started her campaign to push me away. And Michael was too tired from working to notice. The hardest blow came 2 years ago. It was Chloe's FTH birthday. I had saved for 3 months to buy her the dollhouse she had seen at the mall. I arrived at their house with the wrapped gift and my best dress. The party was in the backyard. There was a bouncy castle, clowns, even a princess show, and I was not on the guest list. Oh, Helen, what a shame, Brooke said at the door, not letting me in. It's just a party for her friends from school and their parents. You understand? They're different people. We wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. The birthday girl's grandmother was going to make the different people uncomfortable. I saw Michael in the background playing with the kids. He didn't look up. He knew I was there and did nothing. I left with my dollhouse and cried all the way home. That night, I donated it to the orphanage. At least there it would be appreciated. And now, After all this, after years of humiliation and contempt, Brooke wanted me to be her free babysitter. As if all the pain she caused could be erased with a snap of her fingers when she needed me. But what Brooke didn't know is that Mrs. Miller had learned a lot more than math and English in 35 years. I had learned child psychology, studied dysfunctional families, seen hundreds of cases of narcissistic mothers who use their children as weapons. And above all, I had learned to wait for the perfect moment to act. I looked at the clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. In 4 hours, Brooke would knock on my door with 3 children who barely knew me. 3 children who had been trained to see me as the poor grandmother, the boring grandmother, the grandmother who wasn't worth their time. I smiled in the darkness. If there was one thing I knew how to do after all these years, it was transform children. And these 3 were about to discover who their grandmother Helen really was. At 7 o'clock sharp in the morning, the doorbell rang. Not 7:05 or 7 to 10. Brooke was always punctual when it suited her. I opened the door and there they were, 3 children with sore faces and suitcases bigger than them. I don't have time to chat. Brooke didn't even cross the threshold. Adaine is allergic to dust. Chloe won't eat anything with green vegetables. And Leo needs his iPad to fall asleep. Their medicines are in the blue suitcase. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And Michael, isn't he coming to say goodbye to his children? Michael is working as always. Someone has to support this family. She looked me up and down. Not all of us are lucky enough to retire with a government pension. My pension, $1,500 a month after 35 years of service. Brooke spent more than that on her nails and eyelash extensions. The children entered, dragging their feet. Adaine, 12 years old, with his phone glued to his face. Chloe, 10, with a permanent look of disgust, and Leo, 7, already looking for the television. Be good for your grandmother, Brooke said without any conviction. Then she leaned in close to me and whispered, and don't you dare fill their heads with ideas. Remember that I decide if they ever see you again. She left without saying goodbye to her children. Not a kiss, not a hug, just the sound of her heels clicking away and the engine of her brand new SUV. I stood there with 3 children who looked at me as if I were the enemy. And then I remembered all the moments when Brooke had built this wall between us. Like that time 3 years ago when I wanted to give Michael $500 for a down payment on a used car, Brooke intercepted the money. Oh, Helen, it's better if we use it for the kids' school tuition. Education comes first, don't you think? I never saw a receipt for that tuition. A month later, Brooke appeared with a Louis Vuitton handbag. A friend gave it to me, she said when I asked. A friend, right? Or when my sister Linda died and left me $5,000 in her will. I told Michael excitedly, thinking I could finally fix the roof of my house that leaked every time it rained. Brooke found out. Helen, Michael, and I are in a tough spot. The company I was working for went bankrupt. Another one of her failed multi-level marketing ventures. And we urgently need that money. We'll pay you back with interest. Interest? It's been 2 years and I haven't seen a single dollar.